The night was cold and still. The small human colony on the edge of the alien forest slept under a pale silver moon inside his small metal cabin. Daniel Cross sat alone at his desk, a single lamp glowing over his unfinished notes. He had been living on this planet for 3 years. Far from Earth, far from the noise of crowded cities. It was quiet here, almost too quiet sometimes. Then, knock, knock, knock. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. It was not a friendly knock, not a casual one. It was heavy, urgent. Desperate, Daniel froze, his pen still in his hand. He looked at the door, his heart suddenly beating faster. No one visited at this hour. It was midnight. The colony's curfew meant most people were asleep, and this was not the kind of place where strangers wandered in the dark. Daniel stood up slowly, his mind running through possible reasons. Maybe it was a neighbor in trouble. Maybe someone was hurt, or maybe it was something else, something from outside the colony. The knocking came again, louder now. Bang, bang, bang. All right, Daniel muttered under his breath, his voice low. He reached for the small sidearm he kept near the door. His cabin was old, the walls thin, the air cold enough to make his breath mist. He stepped closer, every creak of the floorboards sounding too loud. Through the small window beside the door, he saw a shape, tall, unmoving, shadowed by moonlight, not human. His grip on the sidearm tightened. The figure stood almost 7 feet tall, its outline strange, a long cloak, a faint shimmer of silver against the black. A soft light seemed to come from its skin, not bright, but enough to catch the eye. Daniel took a slow breath. Who's there? He called out. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice, soft but carrying a strange echo, replied, human. Open the door, please. It was a woman's voice, but unlike any voice he had heard before, there was a rhythm to it, almost like music, and yet, under it, a deep sadness. Daniel's mind screamed to be careful, but something about the tone made him pause. He unlocked the first latch, but kept the safety chain in place, opening the door only a few inches. Cold air rushed in, and so did the sight of her. She was beautiful, in a way that was not human. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlit water. Her eyes, large and glowing, faintly blue. Her hair fell over her shoulders in soft strands that seemed to float as if under water. She was wrapped in a dark travel cloak, worn and torn, and she looked like she had walked through a storm, but her face was tired, desperate, and yet somehow strong. What do you want? Daniel asked carefully. The alien woman took a deep breath. My name is Saraya, she said slowly, as if making sure he understood. I have walked for 2 days to find you. Daniel's brow furrowed. Me? Why? She glanced behind her into the dark forest. Then she looked back at him, her voice dropping to a near whisper. My children need a father. The words hit him like a physical blow. Daniel blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Excuse me? Saraya stepped closer, and he could see the faint tremble in her hands. My mate is dead. The attackers will come again. My children. They will not survive without protection. I came here because you are human. Daniel almost laughed, thinking this had to be some strange joke. But her eyes, those glowing blue eyes, held no humor, only fear and a strange hope. He tightened his grip on the door. You've got the wrong man, he said. She shook her head slowly. No? You are the only one who can help. The wind outside picked up, whistling through the trees. Something moved in the shadows behind her. Tall shapes, too quick to be the wind. Saraya's head turned sharply, her hand brushing the strange curved blade strapped to her hip. Her voice became urgent. Please, let me in. If they see me here, they will come for you too. Daniel's instincts screamed at him to shut the door, lock it, and hide. But something deep in his gut told him that Whatever danger was outside was already here. He opened the door wider, and Soraya stepped inside, moving like a shadow. Her cloak brushing the floor, she glanced at the windows, the corners, the shadows, as if expecting something to break through at any second. "Sit," Daniel said, still unsure why he was even letting her in. Soraya stayed standing, her glowing eyes fixed on the door. "They will not stop," she said softly, "until they have taken everything from me." Daniel looked at her, at the strange silver light on her skin, at the exhaustion in her face, and before he could even form a plan, another sound came from the forest. Not a knock this time, but a low, rumbling growl. And it was getting closer. The growl outside faded, but Daniel could still feel it in the floor. A vibration, low and steady. Like something heavy moving through the trees. Soraya didn't flinch, but her glowing eyes shifted toward the door. She seemed to be listening, counting the distance between them and whatever was out there. "Sit," Daniel said again, but his own voice was tense now. She stayed where she was, her cloak still wrapped tightly around her, for a long moment. The cabin was filled only with the sound of the wind. Finally, she turned to him. "You must think I am strange," she said softly. Daniel gave a short, dry laugh. "That's one word for it." Her eyes narrowed slightly, but not in anger, more in exhaustion. "I would not be here if I had another choice." She said, "My people. We do not ask for help easily, and never from humans." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Well, you're making history then." Soraya ignored his sarcasm. "My mate was killed 3 moons ago." She began. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped her cloak like she was holding herself together. "He was a guard, a protector of our home. He died defending our village from creatures we had never seen before. Tall, fast, covered in black armor that drank the light. We fought them off that night, but they took many of us, including him." Daniel stayed silent, watching her closely. There was no shaking in her tone, no tears, but every word felt heavy, like it carried the weight of memory. "The attacks did not stop," she continued. "They came again and again. Always at night, always in greater numbers. We tried to hide. We moved to smaller camps, deeper in the forest, but they always found us." Her glowing eyes met his. "They are hunting us, Daniel Cross. Not for food, not for sport, but to erase us." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Why come to me? I'm just some guy in a small cabin." Soraya took a step closer, her voice dropping lower. "You are human," she said again. Like that alone was reason enough. "Your kind is different. You fight beyond reason, you protect even when you should run. We have heard stories. Even out here," he almost laughed. "Stories? About humans. We're not exactly famous in this part of the galaxy." "You are wrong," she said, her tone sharp now. "There is a word among my people. Heilkoren. It means those who burn against the dark. It is an old name, one given to humans by worlds you have never seen. When we speak of warriors who never stop, we speak of your kind." Daniel shook his head. "You've been talking to the wrong people." But Soraya didn't back down. "You think I came all this way because you have a strong arm?" She asked. "No, I came because you are what my children need. A protector who will not give them away when the night is long. A shield that stands even when broken." Her words made him uncomfortable. He wasn't that man. Not anymore. Once, maybe. Years ago, but not now, not here. Still, something in her eyes made it hard to look away. They weren't just glowing. They were pleading. "How many children?" He asked quietly. "2," she replied. "Orphans, if you turn me away." He rubbed his forehead. "This is insane," he muttered. Soraya stepped closer. "If you send me away, they will find us before dawn. Then stay here for the night. We'll figure something out in the morning." She shook her head quickly. "No. If they saw me enter, they already know where I am. They will come here. Daniel Cross. You must decide now, will you stand with us, or will you lock your door and pretend you never saw me? Her voice had changed, still soft, but carrying an edge, not a threat. But the kind of truth that could not be ignored. Daniel opened his mouth to answer, but stopped when a sound came from outside. A faint clicking noise, like metal claws. Tapping on stone, it moved along the wall of the cabin. Slow and deliberate, Soraya's hand went to the curved blade at her side. "They are here," she whispered. Daniel's stomach tightened. He wasn't ready for this. He didn't even know what this was, but when her eyes met his, something inside him shifted. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was anger. Or maybe it was the smallest spark of the man he used to be. "All right," he said finally, his voice steady. "I'll stand with you. But you're going to tell me everything." Soraya's lips curved into something almost like relief. "There will be time for that. If we survive the night," and then bang, the front door shuddered under a heavy impact. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lamp swayed. Daniel raised his weapon. Soraya took position beside him, her blade catching the lamplight. Outside, the growl came again. Deeper now. Joined by the sound of more claws, the hunt had arrived. The door shook again, harder this time. Metal hinges squealed, wood groaned. Daniel could see the metal lock bending with each blow. Soraya didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed locked on the door. She moved with purpose, pulling a small device. From her cloak, it looked like a dull metal coin, no bigger than a palm, but covered in strange patterns. She pressed it to the floor. It began to hum softly, a faint blue ring spreading from its center. "What is that?" Daniel asked, keeping his weapon aimed at the door. "Barrier field," she replied. "It will hold them back." For a short time, the pounding on the door stopped. Silence filled the cabin. Daniel's breath came slow, his fingers still resting near the trigger. "Why did they stop?" he whispered. "They are listening," Soraya said, her voice low. "They want to know how many are inside." "And if we are afraid?" Daniel didn't like the way she said we. "All right, you promised me answers," he said. "Start talking. What are those things?" Soraya's gaze moved to the dark window. "They are called Nightborn. We do not know if they were made or born, only that they serve the silence." The silence. Daniel frowned. "It is not a person, not even a race," she explained. "It is an order, a command, followed by those who wish to erase voices. Erase life, where the silence spreads. Worlds become empty. They burn the cities, bury the names. Leave only shadows to guard the ruins." Daniel felt a cold knot in his stomach. "And they want your people gone." "Yes," she said simply. "They have already destroyed 3 of our colonies. We were the 4th. Her hands tightened on the hilt of her curved blade. "They killed my mate because he refused to hand over the children." Daniel blinked. What would they want with children? Her eyes locked onto his. They take the young. To break them, those who survive become Nightborn themselves. Empty of soul, full of hunger, the sound of claws returned. Scratching along the outside walls, slow, patient. Daniel's heart pounded. They're not breaking in now. Why? "They are waiting for my field to fade," she said. "It will not last more than a few minutes when it falls. They will come fast." Daniel glanced at the glowing blue ring on the floor. It already looked weaker, the light flickering. "So what's the plan?" Soraya looked at him like he had just asked if the sun would rise. "We fight," she said. Daniel shook his head. "I don't even know what kills these things." "Steel, fire, will," she answered. Her tone was calm, but her eyes had that same urgent fire as before. "They are shadows in flesh. Cut them deep enough, burn them. They will fall. But they do not fear pain." A sudden thud against the roof made them both look up. Something was crawling above them. The wood creaked under its weight. Then came another, Heavier thud near the back wall. "They're surrounding us?" Daniel muttered. "Yes," Soraya replied. "That is their way. Close every path until there is nowhere to run. Then they test your fear." Daniel's mind raced. He had weapons, a standard human sidearm, a hunting knife, nothing meant for monsters. Soraya seemed to sense his doubt. "You think you are not ready," she said. "You are wrong. A human with a reason to fight is never unready." "I don't have a reason," he shot back. Her expression didn't change. "You do now," she said quietly. "They will not stop at me. If you live here, you are already marked. If you run, they will follow your scent until you are too tired to stand. If you hide, they will wait outside your door until the seasons change." The scratching turned into pounding again. The roof groaned. The blue ring of the barrier field was nearly gone. Daniel's pulse was loud in his ears. "All right," he said finally. "You lead, I'll follow." Soraya gave a single nod. "Then hear my warning. Daniel Cross," she said. "If we survive this night, you must come with me to the children, because the Nightborn do not hunt without an end, and now that they have seen your face, you are part of the war." Before he could answer, the barrier light went out with a soft click. The cabin seemed to exhale. The air colder now. A deep, throaty growl filled the space between the walls. Soraya raised her blade. Daniel aimed his weapon. The first claw pierced the door, splinters flying, and then the hunt began. The battle in the cabin had been short but fierce. Daniel's arms ached. His breath was sharp in his chest. The bodies of two Nightborn lay on the floor, dark smoke rising from their wounds before their flesh crumbled into black dust. The air smelled of burned metal and something sour. Soraya wiped her curved blade clean and didn't speak for a long moment. Only when she was sure there were no more sounds outside did she lower her weapon. "They will not return before nightfall," she said finally. Daniel leaned against the wall. "You're saying they'll be back tonight?" "Yes," she replied simply, "and in greater numbers." He didn't like the sound of that. Soraya knelt beside the strange metal coin on the floor. Now cracked and lifeless, she tucked it away in her cloak and looked at him. "We must leave before dawn? To where?" Daniel asked. "To my children," she said. "If the Nightborn followed me here, it means they may already be close to them." Daniel hesitated, but something inside him, maybe guilt, maybe instinct, made him nod. "All right, let's go." They stepped out into the cold, the silver moon still hanging low in the sky. The forest beyond the colony was quiet, too quiet. Every shadow seemed deeper than it should be. Every rustle in the leaves a warning. The journey was long. They walked for hours, crossing over frozen streams and weaving between trees with twisted, glowing roots. Soraya moved quickly, as if every second mattered. Daniel noticed how she kept scanning the treetops as well as the ground. "You think they might drop down from above?" he asked. "They move through all shadows," she said without looking back. "They can come from anywhere darkness touches." By the time the first light of dawn broke through the forest, they reached a narrow canyon. A hidden path wound down. Between jagged rocks, Soraya led the way, and soon they reached a small shelter built into the stone, its door almost invisible under layers of natural moss. She touched the side of the rock, and a faint pulse of light ran across it. The door slid open. Inside, the air was warmer, filled with a faint herbal scent. Daniel stepped in and froze. Two small figures stood in the corner, watching him with wide, unblinking eyes. The children. They were unlike Soraya in some ways. Their skin was lighter, almost pearl white. Their eyes larger and more luminous. One was a girl, maybe 10 by human standards. The other, a boy, younger, perhaps 6. Both were barefoot, wearing simple woven clothing. The girl stepped forward slowly. Her voice was soft. "Curious, is he the human?" Soraya closed the door behind them. "Yes, Rin," she said. "This is Daniel Cross. He will help us." The boy tilted his head. "Will he fight the Nightborn?" Daniel glanced at Soraya, unsure how to answer. "I'll try," he said. The boy's eyes narrowed, as if weighing his words like stones. The girl, Rin, moved closer. Studying his face, "You don't look like a fighter," she said honestly. Daniel gave a tired half-smile. "Looks can be deceiving." She blinked, then nodded slowly. As if filing that thought away, Soraya motioned for the children to sit. From a small shelf in the corner, she took a container of thick, steaming liquid and poured it into 4 simple cups. "Drink," she said, handing one to Daniel. The taste was strange, earthy, but sweet, and warmed him from the inside. "It will help your strength," she explained. "We will need it," as they sat. Daniel noticed the way the children stayed close to Soraya. The boy's small hand clung to her cloak. "They're scared," Daniel said quietly. "They have reason to be," Soraya replied. "They saw what happened to their father." Her voice stayed calm, but Daniel saw the faint tremor in her hands as she placed her cup down. The boy spoke suddenly. "Are you afraid?" Daniel looked at him for a moment. "Yes," he said truthfully. The boy nodded, as if that answer made sense. "Good," he said. "Only foolish people are never afraid." A strange silence settled over the room. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the faintest sound like a whistle far away. Soraya's head snapped up. "They are searching," she said. "They can smell where I've been." Daniel felt his gut tighten. "They know you came here." "They will know soon enough," she replied. "We must move the children to the safe route before night." "What's the safe route?" Her eyes darkened. "There is no safe route, only paths where they take longer to find you." Rin stood and walked over to a small chest in the corner. She opened it and pulled out a small, hand-carved figure. It was shaped like a human soldier. "Old and worn, my father said humans fight the darkness. She said he told us one would come." Daniel swallowed hard, unsure how to answer. Before he could speak, the boy gasped, his glowing eyes focused on the entrance. "They're close," he whispered. Soraya was already moving, gathering supplies, her voice sharp now. "Daniel, take Rin's hand. Keep her close. Do not let go, no matter what happens." The warmth of the shelter suddenly felt thinner. Shadows stretched across the walls like long fingers. And in the distance, a familiar, deep growl rolled through the canyon. The growl from outside was deeper now. It echoed through the canyon like the rumble of a storm. Rin's small hand tightened around Daniel's without a word. The boy Laro had gone still, his wide, glowing eyes fixed on the door, as if he could see through it. Soraya moved fast. She slung a leather satchel across her shoulder, stuffed with food and strange metal shards. Her blade was already in her hand. "They are in the canyon," she said, her voice sharp. "We cannot stay." Daniel's instincts screamed at him to lock the door and hide, but he knew that wouldn't work. Hiding only gave the Nightborn time to surround you. He had seen their speed and their patience. "How many?" Daniel asked. Laro's voice was almost a whisper. 5. "No, 6. Daniel's stomach tightened. He had only fought 2 before, barely survived. Now there were 3 times as many, and children to protect. Soraya didn't hesitate. "We move now," she said. "Stay behind me. Keep the children close. If you see shadows, split away from the ground." Shoot. The door slid open and cold air rushed in. The light outside was dim. The canyon walls were steep here, letting the morning sun in only as thin slices. Too many shadows. Daniel didn't like it. They moved quickly down the narrow path. Rin clung to his hand. Laro kept close to Soraya. The wind carried strange sounds, claws on stone, faint whispers that didn't belong to the air. Daniel glanced up and caught movement along the rock wall. A tall, thin figure clinging to the stone like an insect, its head snapped toward him, glowing eyes locking onto his. "Go," Soraya barked. They ran. The path widened into an open space between cliffs. That's when the first Nightborn dropped down in front of them. Its body was armored in black plates, its limbs long and jointed wrong. It moved with unnatural smoothness. A hiss-like steam escaped its mouth. Daniel fired twice. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Soraya was already on it, her blade flashing. One deep cut to the neck, and its body collapsed, dissolving into black smoke. "Move," she shouted. They ran again. But the second attack came from above, two Nightborn dropping down together, claws slashing. Daniel shoved Rin behind him and fired again. One shot caught a creature in the chest. The other kept moving. It swung. A clawed hand toward him, pain shot through his arm as it knocked the weapon away. Before it could strike again, a sharp flash of silver cut across its torso. Soraya's blade, the creature crumbled. She didn't even look at him. "Pick it up," she ordered. Daniel grabbed his weapon and kept moving. Adrenaline burned through his fear. They were almost through the open space when a deep shadow moved across the ground, something larger. Daniel looked up. A Nightborn twice the size of the others was climbing over the cliff wall. Its body was heavy, covered in thicker armor. When it dropped down, the ground shook. The children screamed. The creature didn't rush. It stepped forward slowly. Like it knew they had nowhere to go. Soraya stepped in front. "This one is a hunter," she said, without looking back. "It will not stop unless it is dead." Daniel's mind raced. His sidearm wasn't going to pierce that armor. "What's the plan?" he asked. "Distract it," she said. "You want me to what?" She didn't wait. She charged, blade flashing, aiming for the joints. The hunter swung an arm the size of a tree branch. Smashing the ground where she had been, Daniel grabbed a loose rock and threw it at its head. It bounced harmlessly. But the creature's glowing eyes turned toward him. "Come on, then," he shouted, stepping sideways to draw it away from the children. It worked. The hunter moved toward him, each step shaking the ground. Daniel fired at its head, each shot sparking against the armor. It roared, a sound so deep it rattled his bones. Soraya used the moment to leap onto its back, driving her blade between two armor plates at the neck. The hunter howled and thrashed. Daniel saw the wound, faint light spilling from it, and realized that was the weak spot. "Hold it there," he shouted. He sprinted forward, grabbed his fallen knife, and drove it into the same gap. The light flared brighter. The creature staggered, gave one final roar, and collapsed into black smoke. Daniel stumbled back, gasping for air. His arms shook, his ears rang. The children ran to Soraya, clinging to her cloak. She knelt and hugged them briefly before standing again. "They know we are moving," she said. "They will send more." Daniel wiped the sweat and dust from his face. "More? After that thing?" "Yes," she replied. "They have many hunters, and worse." He looked at the children, still holding on to her. "We can't fight like this every hour," he said. Soraya's eyes met his. "That is why we must reach the safe path before night." From somewhere far down the canyon, a horn-like sound echoed. It was deep, hollow, and cold. Daniel felt it in his chest. Soraya's face hardened. "They are calling the pack," she said. "Now we run." They ran until Daniel's lungs burned. The canyon walls finally gave way to a slope of dark grass and low shrubs. The wind here was colder, carrying the smell of rain. Soraya didn't slow down until they reached a cluster of massive stone pillars rising from the ground like broken teeth. The space between them formed a kind of natural shelter, hidden from open sky. "Rest," she said quickly. Daniel leaned against a pillar, his hands on his knees. Rin and Laro curled up together. Their small breaths, fast but steady. For a moment, it was only the sound of the wind again. Daniel finally broke the silence. "All right. I've had enough running in the dark. You're going to tell me exactly what's going on." Soraya looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "You already know the simple truth. The Nightborn hunt my people," she said. "But you do not know why. It is not random. It is not just cruelty." Daniel waited. Soraya's voice lowered, almost as if the stones themselves could be listening. "My mate, Keller, was not just a guard. He was a leader in the resistance. We have been fighting the silence for many years. We have destroyed some of their breeding pits, freed captured worlds. But last year, we took something from them." Daniel frowned. "What?" She glanced at the children, then back at him. "A code," she said. "It was hidden in the mind of one of our elders, a map to where the silence was born. If we could reach it, we could destroy their source, end them forever." Daniel felt his heart beat slow. "You're telling me the Nightborn aren't just after you? They're after this code?" "Yes," she said, "and my mate was the last to know the full map. When they killed him, they thought it was gone. But they were wrong." Soraya knelt beside Rin and Lero. They hid the pieces of the code. "In the minds of my children." Daniel stared. "You what?" "The code is not something you can write down or carry," she said calmly. "It was imprinted in their memory paths. They do not know it is there. It will only unlock when they reach a certain age. Until then, they are the safest vault in the galaxy. And the most hunted." Daniel looked at the children differently now. They weren't just two scared kids in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were carrying the reason for an entire war. "And you came to me because?" he asked. Slowly, Soraya's eyes softened. "Because you are human," she said again. "Your kind has no part in this war. Not yet. The silence does not expect humans to guard something so important, and humans are hard to break." Daniel shook his head. "You've got a lot of faith in a guy who almost died twice in one night." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "And yet, you lived," she said. "Others would not have before Daniel could answer." Lero stirred, his eyes opening slowly. "They're moving," he whispered. Soraya's head snapped toward him. "You can feel them." The boy nodded. "They're spreading out, trying to block the high pass." Soraya's jaw tightened. "We'll have to take the lower route." Daniel frowned. "What's wrong with that?" She hesitated. "It is faster." "Ah, but it passes through the old ruins, and that's bad, because the ruins are not empty," she said simply. Daniel's stomach sank. "You mean more Nightborn?" "No," she said, her voice cold. "Worse, the things the Nightborn fear." He wanted to argue, but there was no time. The distant horn call echoed again, closer this time. Daniel tightened his grip on his weapon. "All right," he said. "You've trusted me this far. I'll trust you." Lead the way as they prepared to move. Daniel glanced at the children again. Rin was holding the small, carved human soldier in her hand. She caught him looking and smiled faintly. "My father said humans are like stars," she said quietly. "Even when the night comes, they burn." Daniel didn't know what to say to that. He just nodded. Let's hope he was right. They slipped out from between the pillars, the cold wind at their backs. The land ahead dipped sharply into a dark valley. Soraya led them down, her steps careful but fast. The ruins loomed in the distance, broken towers and shattered arches. Shapes moved among them, but Daniel couldn't tell if they were alive or just tricks of shadow. As they drew closer, Soraya spoke without turning around. "If we survive the ruins, Daniel Cross, you must decide if you will carry this fight with us, because once the children reach the safe place, the silence will come for you too." Daniel didn't answer. He just kept walking. But deep inside, he knew the choice was already made. The ruins rose from the valley like the skeleton of a dead city. Tall stone towers leaned at strange angles. broken walls casting jagged shadows in the dim light. The air was colder here, and it carried a low hum, so faint, Daniel thought. At first, it was in his head. Soraya didn't slow down, but her grip on her blade tightened. "Stay close," she whispered. "Do not answer if something calls your name." That was not comforting. Daniel scanned the shadows, every step making the hum louder. It wasn't constant. It pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The children stayed between them, their glowing eyes wide. Even Rin, who had been curious before, kept her head down. Halfway through the ruins, they reached a wide open plaza. In the center stood a cracked stone monument. It had once been a statue, but the face and most of the body were worn away. The hum was loudest here. Daniel's skin prickled. "What is that sound?" he whispered. Soraya's voice was grim. "The old ones," she said. "They lived here before the silence. No one knows what happened to them. Only that their whispers remain." Faint voice drifted across the plaza. It was quiet, but clear. Daniel. He froze. It was his own name, spoken in a voice he hadn't heard in years, his sister's. But she had died long before he left Earth. He turned his head without thinking. Soraya's hand shot out and grabbed his arm. "Do not listen." She hissed. "It is not her." The voice faded, replaced by the hum again. Daniel shook himself and kept moving. The plaza narrowed into a broken street lined with archways. Something moved in the shadows, tall, thin figures, watching but not following. Soraya didn't acknowledge them. Daniel decided he wouldn't either, at the far end of the ruins. They reached a half-collapsed gate. Beyond it, the land sloped upward toward the faint glow of the horizon. Soraya let out a slow breath. "Once we pass that ridge, we will be close to the safe place." Daniel almost believed they were going to make it. Then the horn call came again. Not far, not faint, but right behind them, the Nightborn had followed them into the ruins. Shadows surged between the stone towers, their glowing eyes cutting through the gloom. At least 10 of them, maybe more. Daniel raised his weapon. "They're too close," he said. "We won't outrun them, Soraya." Turn to him. "I will hold them," she said. "You take the children and run." Daniel shook his head. "Not happening. You are their best chance," she insisted. "They do not need me to reach the safe place. They need you." The children were watching. Silent, Rin held the carved soldier tight in her hand. Laro's eyes darted between them. Daniel looked at them, then back at Soraya. He remembered her words from the cabin. "A human with a reason to fight is never unready." "No," he said, his voice firm now. "We fight together." Soraya's eyes searched his for a moment. Then she nodded once. "Then you have made your choice," she said. "From this moment, you are part of the war." The Nightborn charged. Moving like black water between the stones, Daniel fired into the front ranks. Forcing them to scatter, Soraya leaped forward, her blade flashing silver in the dim light. The children stayed low behind a fallen pillar. Rin's small voice whispered. "He came, Laro. He really came." Daniel felt something shift in his chest at those words. Not pride, not fear. Something heavier. Responsibility. He wasn't just keeping them alive because Soraya asked. He wanted them to live. To reach a future where the silence was just a story. The fight was chaos, shadows slashing from every direction. The smell of burning air as Soraya's blade cut through armor. Daniel's weapon clicked empty and he switched to his knife. One Nightborn lunged at him. Claws wide, he sidestepped and drove the blade into the gap in its chest plate. Black smoke exploded around him, but there were too many for every one. They cut down, 2 more pushed forward. The children were backed against the pillar. Soraya shouted something in her own language. Daniel didn't understand the words, but he knew the meaning. Fall back now. They pushed toward the ridge. Step by step, Daniel's arms burned. His breath came ragged. The first light of dawn touched the horizon as they reached the crest. The Nightborns stopped, hissing. They didn't cross into the light. Daniel stared. They can't come into the sun. Not without their armor burning, Soraya said. But they will wait until night. Below the ridge, a narrow valley stretched out. At the far end, built into the rock, was a fortified entrance. The safe place. Daniel let out a slow breath. They had made it this far, but the truth was clear. This wasn't the end, only the start. He looked at Soraya. "I'm not leaving after this," he said. "You can tell me I'm part of the war now. But I'm telling you, I'm seeing it through." Soraya's expression softened. "Then you are no longer only human," she said quietly. "You are Hyalcorin, one who burns against the dark." Daniel looked down at Rin and Laro. Rin still clutching the carved soldier, Laro watching him like he was something more than just a man with a weapon. He knelt, so they were eye level. "No matter what happens," he said, "I'll be here." From behind them, the Nightborns' hiss rose again as they melted back into the shadows. The sun was up, but night would come soon enough, and when it did, the war would follow.